happy dollar, sad dollar is Flying Jane.
President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests. This is a sad information dollar. Darlene Bunchen is in the hospital right now, and she went in yesterday for a regularly scheduled doctor's appointment and ended up in the ER. She has blood clots in her lungs, and she is in the ICU. We'll be there again tonight for sure. And she may get sprung tomorrow, or they may keep her another night while they're trying to figure stuff out. Prognosis is very good. They've already put her on medication to break up the blood clots, and she may be on oxygen for a month, but they have not limited any of her activities, so she swims almost every day. She can do that. She's already planning on going to Reno later this month, and they said go for it. So she hopes to be back here at the meeting next week.
Right.
Oh, and also Jim Waters is recently out of the hospital.
Back from another adventurous, what do you call it, journey, Lion Dwayne.
President Leroy, all Lions and guests, worked on a tan over in Hawaii, tried to stay out of the sun some. Now I'm coming home and resting.
Past President, Lion Pat.
President Leroy, all Lions and guests. Excuse me, I've got some vegetables off my throat. And our wonderful guest speaker, Chief Duscha, Chief Jim. $5.50. I haven't seen y'all for, seems like forever. It's been almost like a decade since last year. So the last 2 weeks have been very busy with the moving to Castle Rock. There's nothing in the world like having basically a mother-in-law who will make 12 muffins, eat 3, put 9 in the freezer, forget about them for 3.5 years, and then say, oh, there's plenty of room in the freezer. You can just bring the food. It's fine. There's lots of room. There's no room. Couldn't put a cube of butter in that freezer. Anyway, it's also an interesting sad butt that I am living through this commuting thing. I've literally been driving 2.2 miles to work every day, and now this huge thing of 11 miles from Castle Rock all the way to Kelso. I'm almost tired by the time I get there. Terrible. Had a lovely Christmas, had a lovely New Year's. Hope you all did the same. And let's have some more fun in 2020. Yes.
We moved to Castle Rock in '87, so we've been doing it for, I don't know, 20-some years. It's no big deal. You'll get used to it. You'll get used to it.
Actually, 87 would be 30-some years.
Okay, we're going to collect here for the hoser. He does have a kid. Well, he likes you. But he likes you. Brian. Back from another exciting skip up north, Lionville.
President Lyon, fellow guests, it's just nice to be back home. I had a week off and got to go see family and don't go back up, drive all the way to work at Fort Townsend until Friday, so it's nice to be back home.
Ryan, where's your pin? Not your badge, your pin. Does he have it? Oh no, but he's gonna pay. Okay, I'm good. We're good to go. Another one. Yeah. Does she pay for you also? And Mike is paying. Do you want to? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's a donation from the day. We don't need happy dollars today. Okay, let's move on. We're going here with past president and past zone chair. Were you a zone chair? Okay. Lion Terry.
Right, thank you. King Lion, Leroy, fellow Lions and guests, I'm glad to be back. I was working there for a little bit in December, believe it or not. But anyway, nice to be back and see you all again. And Happy New Year and Merry Christmas, real life.
Lion Jim.
Leroy, President Leroy, fellow members, guests. I've got some happy dollars here. As you probably noticed, I hadn't been around, maybe you didn't. But I have been around for quite a while. I was forced to spend 4 months in Europe. So anyway, here's my $5. It was tough, but someone had to do it.
That's wonderful, that's wonderful. Past, you're good, you're good. Past District Governor Jim. We'll do Jim first. Is it okay?
I always bow to my elders.
King Lion Leroy, fellow Lions and guests, I've got 2 extremely happy dollars. One is a Happy New Year to everybody here. All of you are looking pretty sharp and pretty bright today on the new year, except for Hal and Pat Palmer, who look like they just struggled out of their tent down on Lake Sacagawea. But that's one happy dollar. The other happy dollar is a birthday dollar. Last century. Anybody here remember 1936? Put your hand down, Bob. You don't remember it either. Neither do I, but we were born then. Dang it.
Past Council Chair, Al.
President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests, had a very interesting weekend. And the first happy dollar is that took my grandson up to a Rubik's Cube competition in the University of British Columbia. And on the way up, he said something. It's always fun going with you, Grandpa. And so on the way back, I was talking about that, and he says, "Oh, you thought I was serious." So here's a sad dollar. And then this dollar is for my stupid dog. Yesterday, I get a call. He decided to eat some chimney cleaner and some scented pine cones. And he's got this big chew thing there. It's about that long that he ignored all day. And something else. So I spent all the afternoon at the vet. Said he's okay, I think.
Yeah.
Unless I strangle him tonight.
Yeah, I thought so. Lion Skip.
President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests, happy dollar, reflective dollar, story dollar. Here we go. About 40 years ago, my wife and I were about to have a new child. And we, in those days, didn't know boy or girl. So I went to my dad, who is short on words, kind of like me. And I went to him and I said, "Now, Dad, Grandpa was Walter, you're Walter Jr., I'm Walter the Third. If we have a boy, you want me to name him Walter the Fourth?" And my dad looked at me and said, "You do? And I'll kill you." No. All right, we're done. So I named him Darren Kenneth when he was born. So fast forward 40 years. I go to my son, his wife is about to have their first baby and our first grandchild. So Darren, yeah, I don't want you to feel any obligation that you have to name your son Walter Lewis Messenger IV. God, Dad, are you nuts? I would never do that. So they're calling him Darren Kenneth Jr., and after this weekend, they're calling him DK, because DK Metcalf was a star, and my son thinks he walks on water.
Jim, you might as well leave. We've already had the program.
It's going pretty well, too, Jim.
Even though know you've got food in your mouth, you have something to say. Okay? You're gonna do a contribution of any kind, of a monetary contribution, or you're just looking for a freebie? You looking for a handout? Okay, good for you. Okay. That's $10. You just would rather do $1? $1? Okay. Blind David. Remember the rules.
President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, God bless you, and if it's okay, I'll do God Bless You America. It's the only song that I've ever sing, it's a patriotic song, and it's probably the only one I have by memory. Outside of the other one that we do, This Is My Country, My Country Is My Country. The other song that we sang, my mind isn't very clear today. God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night from the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide above. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thanks, David.
Well done, David, well done. Okay, we need to wrap up early today, so let's get over here to Phoebe list. Treasurer Dolly. We miss her already.
So do I. President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests, had a happy holidays, but we are very excited at Columbia Security that we went through Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the New Year, and I am so glad.
You made it.
Oh, John, that's you.
Yes, past President John. Don't care.
President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests, got a few happy dollars here. The first one is, I'm happy to see Chief Duscha. I miss you. The second happy dollar is to wish all of you all of the blessings that you need in 2020. Don't be greedy. Be thankful for the ones you already have. The last dollar I have to share with you, Connie and I did the second hardest thing we've done in our lives, put Luke down December 16th.
What'd you do? Oh, they're gone. Sign run.
President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests, in a time-honored tradition of roasting people, I'd like to tell you my Christmas stories about Mike Parker. 10 years ago, the only vehicle he had was a tractor and trailer for the van, so I could find him around Christmas in the parking lots shopping with his trailer. And the truck part of it. So he finally bought a 55-inch television set. Well, 3 years later, he bought a 65. This year, he bought an 85, and it's almost big enough to walk into, and now he's pricing 120-inch for next year. And the house is too small for this one.
Holy. Pat's own chair. Great.
President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests, real happy dollar over the holidays. Mother is here from Arizona and celebrated her 96th birthday. Had a great time. And the other one, in case you haven't noticed, my brother Mike is on a diet. What? Oh, that's somebody else's ice cream. Anyway, he was was trying to convince us the other day that he lost 10 pounds. Well, I think I found it.
Perfect timing, perfect timing. Second vice, I'm having trouble with it still. Second Vice District Governor, Maryland. Yes,
President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests. I have one happy dollar. It's good to be back. Missed you guys. We were gone for what, 2 weeks? We had to have Christmas and New Year's without you. This happy dollar is next week. You can clap if you want, but we will be gone to the beach.
Yeah, right.
You won't be here after the meeting? That's right, we do get to be here, don't we? What are we going to miss, though? There's something we're missing. I guess we're not going to be. But you know what? It's supposed to snow. That could be interesting.
Gary? Zone Chair Gary.
President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests, I had a really wonderful Christmas as well. I bought myself a new car. After researching it for over 3 years, I ended up with a Subaru Outback. However, I realized that I can't transport all of the Lions apparel on a regular basis here, so I'll have to be doing it in shifts or something.
Okay, we ready to wrap it up? Leroy?
Sure thing. Invocation today will be given by past council chair Hal Plummer.
Heavenly Father, we bow here before you to service you and humanity. We ask that you bless all of the activities of this year. We thank you for all the blessings you gave us in the previous year. As we come together after a long time apart, we're just so happy that the friendship and the loyalty and the care that we have for everybody here is true and real. And I ask that you be with Darlene and Jim right now and help heal them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge will be led by 3rd VP Rex Boswell. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our song will be led by 2nd Vice District Governor, Marilyn Patterson. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of thy pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. That was nice. Thank you. Thank you. So, do we have any introduction of guests? No guest. Okay. That was fast. So, go on to announcements. First of all, I have the cards for Darlene and Jim. So who hasn't gotten this yet? Can we pass this along? Okay, great. Thank you, Dolly. There's still a lot of ice cream over there too. Okay, starting off with announcements. Cindy has passed around the calendar, and I got to make a change to the calendar. The board meeting is going to be January 30th at the Corner Cafe at 796 Commerce. So we're going to try that place out. I was there this morning and kind of looking at it, and it looks to be a little small. So we'll see if we can squeeze all of us in there. We'll see. So that's January 30th, 7 o'clock at the Corner Cafe, and that's on Commerce. They have a room, and that's what's really small. It's about the size of maybe the bathroom here. So we'll squeeze us in So Dolly says get there early to order your food so that you get your food before we're done. So anyway, short notice. We'll see how that goes. Next up, we're going to go with Zone Chair Cindy Fickett. You have some announcements?
This poor girl is running to go back there, and the announcement was done. President Leroy, guests, and members, it's been a long 2 weeks. There's a zone meeting tomorrow night here at the Eagles, 6 o'clock. They're having chicken fried steak. No, cranberry chicken. And so that's tomorrow, 6 o'clock here for a zone meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Next up is going to be Bob Jensen. Jessen. Yeah, I don't read my handwriting.
President Leroy, members and guests, we're taking the kettle corn machine on the road the 24th and the 25th over Expo Center. There's Squatch Fest, so it's going to be a Friday night session this year they've added, and then it'll be all day long Saturday. So we've got 2 tables inside, different locations, so we'll be cashier and a helper at each table. So we need about 28 between the cashiers and the helpers, and we need kettle corn makers and baggers and sealers and all that stuff. So the sign-up sheet is over there. I wanted to give you a chance to grab the first spot. So let's have at it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Next will be, well, we'll go with Rex next, but while you're coming over here for Rex, we got an email earlier yesterday, I think, from the Battleground Lions. They are having a crab exania, whatever. Anyway, Crab Fest, basically. And it will be on February 1st down on Battleground. Tickets are $40. And if you'd like to get some tickets, you need to get your tickets. There's none sold at the door. You can get it at their website, or you can email them. And information is on the newsletter. So there you go. Thank you for putting it on there, Cindy. So anyway, that's on February 1st. And they say get your tickets early if you're going to go, because they expect it to sell out. So good there. Next announcement, 3rd VP Rex Boswell.
President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests, I have we need a work party tomorrow morning at 6:30 at Lions Island. We'll start taking lights down, and Saturday morning to finish up what's left at 9 o'clock at Lions Island.
Thank you. Next will be past zone chair Greg Firth.
President Leroy, fellow Lions and guests, a few announcements. Number one, last month I reported how well we did at Walk and Dock. We're not getting the word out. The Daily News readership is down so far. Any ideas you've got that we can use to get the word out on the Walk and Dock food drive, cut it down on a piece of paper for me and just give it to me. I don't care how wild an idea it is. We need some new ideas to get the word out and get our food collections up. Second announcement, tomorrow night is Sight and Hearing Foundation meeting. It's rung on this list here. It'll be over at Canterbury Park at 6:30. And anybody is more than welcome to attend that. And third, going to have a little membership drive. Between now and the end of our Lions year, June 30th, whoever brings in the most members will get collection of our 7 pins from our club. These are also has the 2 that are really hard to find, the 2 original ones. And this lion statuette. Second place. In 2011, Seattle hosted the Lions International Convention, and there were 3 pins that were available back then, 3 3 different years to help fund that convention. Right here, there's the difference between them is there's a yellow, red, and blue for the 94th convention, plus 3 of the current pins from our club. If we have more than 2 that win, we'll draw short straws and they'll get the other one. If I have more, I can make more of these up. So anyway, between now and the end of the year, and within a month's time, I'm going to be announcing another way to enhance getting people in. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. We already heard from Jane about basically our sunshine report. So do we have anything else to add? That's it? For Jim and Darlene. Good there. Okay. Moving on to, this is, I guess it's going to be our first reading or our first announcement for some changes to the bylaws. At our last board meeting, it was moved and carried to change our bylaws to be effective July 1st, to add the LCIF coordinator to the board while reducing 2-year director positions to 3 and the 1-year director position also to 3. This is brought on by Lions International, their structure and where they want the LCIF director. Is there anybody that needs to say anything about that? Kind of winging it here on this. So anyway, that's the first notice, and then we'll put it to the vote to the club to change the bylaws accordingly. I think either 4 weeks or 3 weeks. When is that? John?
Leroy, if you're going to make all the directors 3-year directors, you should change the name to 1 and 2-year directors.
No, they're cutting.
They're just cutting. They're just cutting the position. So we're going from 4 to 3 members. Yeah, sorry. So, so that was the first reading. We're good there, and we'll have more information later. Okay, so that's it for the announcements I have. Does anybody have anything to add? So we will move on to our program chair. Pass his own chair and everything else that you do. Steve Patterson. Past District Governor.
It keeps getting worse and worse. Thanks for all your love. Thank you. Mostly, Jim gave me a little biography before the start of the meeting, and I'd like to thank you, Jim, for doing it in large print. We've had Jim here on a number of occasions. He's always informative about what's going on as far as the criminal activity around. He's got quite an impressive resume. I might as well shoot some of this stuff to you. He's been a member of the Longview Police Department for 41 years. Started as a patrol, yeah. So add a few years to that, he's probably thinking about retirement here, I think, pretty soon. Anyway, personally, I think the best thing the city ever did was hire from within when they hired Jim, and we didn't have to go out there and go clear across the country to find somebody that knew anything about the police department. Anyway, shut up, Steve.
Keep it short.
He was promoted to captain and was division commander for patrol investigations. He was also the commander of the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Narcotics Task Force and commander for the Lower Columbia SWAT team. He has appeared on 2 TV shows depicting homicide investigations he conducted as a detective in Longview, Cold Case Files, and On the Case with Paula Zahn. Jim and his wife Kim have a business, Duscha Investigations, specializing in human resource consulting for background information or investigations and internal investigation. He's a graduate from Marilang High School, Lower Columbia College, and Western Washington University. We won't hold that against him. Jim has received numerous commendations and awards over the years, to include Officer of the Year, Exemplary Performance Awards, 3 Meritorious Service Awards, 2 Outside Agency Awards, Patriotic Employer Award from the Department of Defense, and the Medal of Honor. Please, Lions, let's welcome Longview Police Chief Jim Duscha.
Thank you so much. I don't know if you have a fine for people coming in the last, but Charlie, I'm all over you, I saw that. So I would go ahead and do that and make it retro for next time. Brian, Longview Police Department is still hiring. Like I told you before, we got 7 openings. Come and see me after the meeting. You'd be golden. You want to stay away from the fire department, Chief.
Can we take my brother Mike?
Well, he needs to diet just a little bit more. I'll probably be fine for that one. So this photograph is of the Longview Police Department. We took it in 2019. You can see this guy right here. He has the best tan out of the group. Last year I had made sure we took this picture the day after I got back from Hawaii. So every January my wife and I go. So everybody is showing their winter tan. And the only guy that's a little bit darker than me is Philly Matua, and he's a Pacific Islander, so I can't beat that. So we don't have the statistics yet for 2019. We're still compiling the numbers for December. I did see some preliminary numbers today. They look pretty good. I think actually they'll be better than 2018, so that's good for us. But so I'll go over some of these 18 numbers. Here are the things that we were above 2017. Aggravated assaults, that's the major assaults. That's felony assaults. People that are shot, stabbed, hit with baseball bats, whatever you can do to somebody to hurt them really bad, that was up 30%. Simple assaults up 23%, robbery 19, ATM fraud 90. That's when we had some out-of-town folks, out-of-country folks sweep through the area. It hit all the ATM machines. Several of them were arrested outside of our area, so that was solved, but that kind of skewed our numbers. And then weapons complaints were up 42%. So these are the ones that are down. Obviously forcible sex offenses, that's a good thing to have that down. Violation of no contact orders, that deals with domestic violence mainly, so that number was down. Burglary down, I'll talk about that a little bit later. Counterfeit down, and vandalism down by 9%. Most of you, if you read the Daily News, and I heard subscriptions are down, I don't read it, and I'm not going to go into why, because I don't think it's very accurate. Oh, I said that out loud. Okay. So our street crimes unit is very, very active. You can see them in the paper all the time, sometimes in other news sources. They made 189 felony drug arrests. Out of that came 340 charges. Most of the time there's multiple charges for people. Used the canine 48 times. He found drugs 28 times and removed almost 8,000 grams of meth and 806 grams of heroin. So the search warrants, we searched 78,000 grams is 2.2 pounds. So in 18, I think it was about almost 20 pounds of drugs we took off the street. A lot of times people think 20 pounds isn't that much, but when you're selling it at a 1/16 of an ounce, sometimes that's a lot. This obviously does not include marijuana. I'm going to go through this a little bit fast because I know the elephant in the room. Anytime I get into a room, people want to talk about the homeless issue or the unhoused or whatever the politically correct term is. So I will get into that as much as I can. Group A offenses in the city of Longview, or actually statewide, is pretty much everything that we measure except for traffic offenses, traffic tickets and DUIs. So you see in 18, we were up just modestly by 1%, but you have to look at overall. That's persons crimes, property crimes, and crimes against society, which I've never really figured out what that is yet, because I thought everything was against society. So, potentially. So the crimes against persons, that's up 12%, and that's something we don't like to see. That's the aggravated assaults and the simple assaults that are going up. That's raising that number up. Fortunately, on most of those offenses, it's people that know the person they're assaulting. So it's just not a random assault. You're walking down the street and somebody starts wailing on you. And a lot of it's gang related. Property crimes, they were down a little bit, 5%. I'm going to attribute this to our street crimes unit. A lot of people will tell you you cannot arrest your way out of a drug problem, you cannot arrest your way out of anything. However, if you take dopers off the street, what you will find is your burglaries go down and your thefts go down because they're not stealing everything that's not nailed down or nailed down and trying to sell it for drugs. Get the dopers off the street, your property crimes go down. Our domestic violence rate was up by 14%. We knew this was going to happen. It's not that we had more domestic violence in the city of Longview. It's just that we dedicated a full-time domestic violence investigator. So with that, we knew the numbers were going to go up because we had more people that were able to actually look at domestic violence cases and prosecute them the way that we should. Now I'll tell you, for 19, we added an additional domestic violence investigator and a domestic violence advocate. So I'm sure that number is going to be even higher, which is a good thing. I supervised our domestic violence unit when I was a young detective sergeant, and it was one of the best units I was in. It really feels like you're making a difference in people's lives. That number is going to go up, but we anticipated that. Our clearance rate is down from 2017 and 18. I'm not sure what it is this year, 46%. A lot of people think, man, that's not really very good. That's all the crimes we investigate. We solve 46% of them. But you look at the state average is 25%. So we actually are doing quite well for everybody else in the state. Our traffic statistics, we do have 2 dedicated traffic enforcement officers. I want to increase that. Quite frankly, Longview is one of the worst towns I've seen for driving. So, but our traffic collisions are down. So they're down 4%. And our tickets are also down, only by 0.4%. But what we see, and statistically what you can show nationwide, is when you have a really robust traffic enforcement unit, the word gets out real quick. Now, I was a street cop. I loved writing tickets. I worked the street for 17 years before I finally figured out it was safer to be in the office. So, but we had an enforcement on Ocean Beach. This was probably 2 years ago. So we were stopping everybody for everything. And one of the main focuses was talking on cell phones. So I see this woman talking on her cell phone, no offense to women, but she was talking on her cell phone, so I pulled her over. I walked up to the car, she was still on her cell phone, window was out. I had to knock on the window. She rolled it down and said, just a minute, I need to finish this conversation. So I said, well, no, you're finished now. And she didn't appreciate that. So I got her license, registration, proof of insurance. I told her the reason I stopped you was you're talking on your cell phone. She looked at me and went, duh, I know. You can't do that, it's traffic infraction. Well, how am I supposed to talk to my friend? There's no logic here. I said, not while you're driving. So I left, came back up, she is on her phone again. And she's talking, I think probably to the same person. She said, oh, now great, he's coming back with a ticket. Really, no kidding. If I could have written her for more, I would have. But once you write somebody a ticket like that, or people see a car pulled over with your red and blues on, almost immediately 10 or 20 people are going to know about that. Not only from the person that was stopped, because she's calling all her friends and telling her what a horrible person I am for writing her a ticket, but everybody that's driving by sees that. Everybody slows down. They start to think a little bit more about, should I run that red light? Should I run the stop sign? That's what reduces our accidents. So we'll continue to do that. It's not really favorable to a lot of people in this town, but that's what I get paid for. And if I had any feelings, I wouldn't do this. So one of the things, Chief, I'm going to kind of pick on the fire department a little bit on this one, and I apologize because it was a different fire department when you were running it. We have a lot of people that, our guys are on the road 24/7. So we are out there using the AEDs, doing the CPR, doing a lot of things to save lives, much more than anybody else, quite frankly. So we always like to really recognize them. At our annual awards dinner, they get a nice prize for saving a life. We go before the city council, present them. You know, this is kind of a good thing. There's not a lot of really positive public sentiment about police departments right now, so I try to do that as much as I can. But you can see this, that you know, using CPR, using the AEDs. This one on the end I really like. Corporal Danielle Jenkins has a master's degree in psychology. So she goes up on the Lewis and Clark Bridge, talks somebody off the rail who was actually at the high point of the bridge, sitting on that little railing with his feet dangling over the side, ready to go. She talked him off that railing, to go to St. John's and get the help that he needed. So those things are very, very positive for our police department. We have several more of that this year in 19. One of them was just absolutely floored me. Our guys finally, and one gal, got to deliver a baby. So they got there, the mom and dad were deaf. The female officer that was there knew American Adult Sign Language or whatever it is. She was able to communicate with them, get them to calm down, got the baby born, put the baby on mom's chest. Paramedics get there, everybody goes to the hospital, everybody's happy, and the baby's doing great. We also do a lot of violent intruder training. Any business, any church, we're doing it actually for a lot of churches now that want to have this training. What do we do when somebody comes into our business, our church, armed with a gun, start shooting things up? The best one I ever saw, and this is a little bit morbid, I get that, but 'cause I'm a church attending man and I'm always armed at church. But in Texas, somebody comes in, starts to shoot the place up, armed people take him down. Don't be a victim. That's what we preach. So if you have a business, you have any kind of an organization, you want violent intruder training, it's really, really good. We have state certified instructors that put this on. Our calls for service, it's been a kind of a 5-year trend where it looks like it's going down. But back here, where it was 50,000 calls a year for service in 14, the 911 center started tinkering around with our numbers because they were actually trying to get more money out of us. So they wanted to inflate those numbers, if you will, and then tell us, well, we need to charge you more money because we're being overworked. When we looked at that, a burglary complaint that a patrol officer took, he might work that for a couple of days, and every time he went into that in the old school ways and the way we do it now, you would just reopen that case. You wouldn't assign it a new number. Well, the 911 center decided they were going to assign everything a new number, which inflated that average. So we got it back to normal. I think this area, the 44,000, 43,600, that's going to be more of what we're seeing. That's pretty much a constant right now. I think it's going to be a down maybe a little bit for 2019. The reason being there's a lot of calls we don't go to anymore, and we tell people to report them online, and they just give up trying to report things online. So they are very, very minor, low crimes, but we just don't have the staffing, which I'm going to get into here shortly. And there it is. There is one more thing I wanted to talk about, and I got to thank my fire department guys for this. Last year I lost $500,000 out of my budget on the very last day in December when a council member decided to take that $500,000 and give it to the fire department so they could hire 3 extra firefighters and a battalion chief, which is a kind of a high-ranking supervisor. Took that away from my budget. And they said the reason being was they're handling 5,500 calls a year. 5,500, not 55,000. And we're handling the 43,668. They were overworked, so they needed more bodies. So they took the 500 grand out of my budget to do that. So I thought, I think they're overworked. And they say, one of the problems is that at times they call it level 0 where there's not an ambulance available. And typically that's not Longview Fire, because even though they're fully staffed with paramedics, they only run their ambulance about 26% of the time. They're trying to get that up. Kudos to the new chief for trying to do that. So I thought, I wonder how many times our calls are held or preempted. And a preempted call is everybody's out on a call and something more serious happens, so I have to tell you, I'm sorry you're bleeding, but I got to go somewhere else and I'll try to come back to you. So we have to leave. So I ran those numbers, 8,884 times in 2018 when people called for a police officer in the city of Longview, nobody was available. You could be getting shot, you could be getting beaten, somebody could be breaking into your house, and you will be told there's nobody available. To me, that is incredibly scary. A lot of people don't know this, but there's 281 police departments in the state of Washington. Sounds like quite a bit. Everybody still considers Longview to be a very small police department. We're the 28th largest in the state. We're not a small police department. And we need City Hall, and I can say this because I am short, I will retire. And even if I don't want to retire and they fire me, who cares? I've been here 41 years. So we need to treat our Longview Police Department like it's a big department, and we need to staff it like it's a big department. So this is the city of Longview, and these are all our calls for service, all these nice colors that I can't see from an angle very well. Okay. So we divide our city into 4 areas, 4 beats. That is my staffing. on every shift. 4 police officers and a supervisor. We go from Kelso, West Kelso, that's, oops, wrong button. There's a green area right in here, that's West Kelso, all the way to, that's Industrial Way, out to Coal Creek, and yes, we do have one house up on Lone Oak, that's ours. And everything in between. That's 4 cops covering that, that's it. So the line between the yellow and the purple is Hudson, which goes all the way through to the lake. So Area 1 covers downtown, Triangle Center, and then goes up the hill. This is Pacific Way. One person is covering all that. 9,525 calls just in that area, not 5,500. And that 5,500 breaks down for the fire department. There are 2 stations, 7 calls in 24 hours. I think we do a bit more. So Area 2, busy area, busiest area, 12,656 calls. All the downtown area goes out to Gerhardt Gardens and down along the Port Industrial Way, stuff like that. Area 3 is the Highlands. It's our smallest area, but 8,905 calls. And Area 4, another one of our big areas, 10,340 calls. Now all the green dots, that's going outside the city limits of Longview, helping other agencies. And I got to tell you, they come and help us too, but it seems like we do it a little bit more. And that's okay. We're not going to leave anybody hanging, that's for sure. When Deputy DeRosier was shot and killed, everybody was out on that scene. Everybody. I stayed up 37 hours straight running the command post. That's just the way we work. So why is our workload a big deal? I picked 1980 to compare to 2018 because that was a nice even numbers and I can kind of work with that. And so in 1980 I was a blonde-haired, things have changed, blue-eyed patrol officer. My eyes are pretty much bloodshot, but I think there's still some blue in there now. So we had 1 sergeant, 4 officers. That was our staffing, 1980. 2018, 1 sergeant, 4 patrol officers. You can see the call volume, the population difference. In 1980, most of our calls, a lot of our calls, we would settle by contact, where you'd go out and actually talk to somebody, resolve the problem, away you'd go. You wouldn't have to do a report. And that was pretty easy. When you did do a narrative report, it was on a handwritten report form because we had 1 electric typewriter and 2 or 3 manual typewriters. Now, as a new guy, a new patrol officer, you have to work up to get to use the electric typewriter. And I just graduated college with my undergrad degree. I knew how to type, and this was just foreign to me. So I sat down. Oh, and there was carbon paper too. And new guys did not get new carbon paper. You got the old stuff that the old guys didn't want anymore. It was all scotch taped together. It didn't work. It was horrible. So I'm sitting down with this botched up carbon paper at a manual typewriter, trying to figure out how to do this thing. And you know what? Some of you probably remember this, where it would go across and it would ding and you got to hit the carriage and make it go. So it ding, I hit it, and the carriage falls on the floor. And there was an old guy sitting next to me, and he's doing his hunt and peck best on the electronic typewriter. He said, yeah, none of those work. Okay. So, but I was still not allowed to use the electric typewriter. So now, you guys have to log into the dispatch system, called CAD, Computer-Aided Dispatch, log into the records system, which is Spillman, complete a data entry sheet, enter the narrative into Spillman, complete paper from forms for all the evidence that you have to collect. You download photos, you download video evidence. Of course, we didn't have video evidence in 80, none of that was around. You have to store all the digital media, package and submit the evidence, and just about every report now we do, because of liability, or every call we go on, we have to do a report. Now, why I stuck around in police work, I don't know, because I already told you about the typewriter. When I was getting my equipment and I was ready to go, I was going to save the world, I was going to solve all the world's problems. I get one of those little black Kodak Instamatic 110 cameras, had a little periscope thing on the top with flash cubes. So I was handed that. That was our photographic equipment. So I foolishly asked the evidence officer, where's the film? He just kind of looked at me and goes, film is too expensive to develop. When you go to a crime scene, you walk around and just snap that flash bulb so people think you're taking pictures. Because the perception is you will know what you're doing. Oh yeah, I should have became a fireman right there. So in 1980, we had 51 cops. Right now, I have 60. The city council just authorized 5 more, which is a good thing. Haven't seen how the city's going to finance that. They authorized it a year ago. So, as a matter of fact, when I leave here, I meet the city manager. We're going to discuss that, and maybe I'll retire sooner than I thought. So, this is the other area that was out west that they wanted to annex. It went from like 42nd to, I don't know, 52nd, 56, something like that. That was voted down. That was good because I had all kinds of ammunition on why we needed more costs for that. Another call, obviously, that we really spend a lot of time on are people in crisis. So ITA, that's an Involuntary Treatment Act. That is somebody that is so mentally unstable, they are a threat to themselves, others' property. There's nothing else we can do with them. We take away their rights and we take them to the hospital. Police officers are the only ones that are allowed to do that. The other, that's up 35%. Mental call, that's the rest of the people you see running around, that everybody calls in that are camped all around City Hall and stuff like that. So they take a lot of time. Most of them are 2 officer responses because these folks can get very violent. So sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's the entire shift they're trying to deal with it. Our overdoses are down, and the reason being for that is a lot of those we don't go to. You may have heard on the news, seen it in Narcan, where somebody overdoses on heroin. They're dead. They have no pulse. They're not breathing, nothing. You can squirt that Narcan into their nose. That's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. They just wake up and they go, whoa. And then they're mad because their heroin high is already gone, so they got to go try to find some more heroin. But it saves lives. The fire department does that because, as far as I'm concerned, that's medical. They have trained paramedics. We're busy enough on our calls, they can go and administer the Narcan. We're not going to do that. Suicidal calls were up by 11. People on the bridge want to jump. In 19, I know a couple of our guys cut a person down that was hanging. We were able to do the CPR, use the AED, and bring him back to life, and he's doing fine now. Welfare check. I think a lot of people are just giving up on calling in with all the people wandering around town, wrapped in blankets, talking to themselves and stuff like that. They just given up on calling in. So on an average day, we respond to 7.5 calls a day for a person in crisis. And they can take hours to get those resolved because obviously they're not thinking clearly, so we have to try to get through that. So when I went to City Council asking for more cops, this is after they took my $500,000 away. I said, we need to compare to Kelso, who's the second biggest city in Cowles County, and Vancouver PD. Vancouver PD is our biggest competitor, and I'll show you why in the next slide. So in Longview, our officers handle 1,408 calls a year per officer. Kelso 1,269, Vancouver 1,041. Some very educated, I think very intelligent people came up with an optimal number of 850 calls, and that person I'm talking about is not me. It's people that paid a lot of money to do these presentations. So if we wanted to get to the optimum number of calls per officer per year, we would need 20 more cops. That's to start with $2 million. All those council members were clutching their chest right about now. So I said, well, let's get down to Vancouver, our number 1 competitor, 1,000 calls. We need 12 more. They go, oh no, I can't do that, too expensive. So, okay, well, how about 1,200 calls, 5 cops? And they said, oh yeah, we can fund 5 cops. A year ago, I haven't seen those cops yet. But there's the numbers that prove why. Now, in the last 37 years, or in the last 12 years, 37 officers have left employment with the Longview Police Department. That's over half the police department in 12 years. You can't have that kind of turnover and be successful. I don't know why we're successful. Probably because of the quality of people we hire. Ryan, I'm hiring, I got to sit on openings. So, 11 officers, 30%, had lateral to different agency. Out of that, 10 of them went to Vancouver. 9 of our officers didn't pass probation. So once you get hired, you wait to go to the academy, and it takes a little bit of time to get to the academy. You're there 5 months, you come back, you train for us for 3 months. Hopefully in 3 months you're ready to go on the road. Some of them aren't, so we'll extend their training. In a couple months, if they're still not ready, we kick them loose because they're never going to make it in Longview. The reason being, we're nicknamed the meat grinder because of how hard we have to work our officers. Most of the time on swing shift, officers do not get a break. How many places in this town would put up with that? Nice union shop towns would put up with never getting a break in a 9-hour period of time. And we want our people sharp to be able to make a split-second decision. 7 retired, God bless them. I'm going to be with them soon. 5 resigned, and they just said, I am getting out of police work. This is ridiculous. 5 were terminated for various disciplinary issues. I'm very, very strict. When they make certain mistakes, there's no coming back, and I terminate them. That's just the way it is. So I told City Hall, we can continue with working our officers to death. We can hire adequate staffing, or we can reduce the calls that we respond to. And they said, what does that look like? I said, we no longer respond to any property crimes. So if somebody breaks into your house, it's a burglary, we're not going to go. You can fill out a report yourself, turn it in, give it to your insurance company, we're not going to go. It will get to that point if I don't get the staffing that I need. I mean, I hate to paint that kind of a picture, but I'm very blunt, and that's just the way it is. So any questions on that before we get into the hot topic of unhoused, homeless people? Sir?
Can you tell me what the infraction fine is for driving with a cell phone?
I think it's around $148, something like that.
Well, your Facebook people, the $990 thing is absolutely high.
Yeah, it's not that high. Any other questions on the stats before we open it up on the homeless issue? And I'll do my best, sir.
You keep stats on scam type calls and that kind of stuff, does that fit into your fraud?
Yeah, that's fraud. Yep. Yeah, we do. And that's down. Yes, sir.
Jim, on one of your first things, there was something about arms. No, back to that, unless you want.
I'm going backwards.
It was near the first part.
Okay.
I just wondered if it dealt with people that were pulling out a gun or whatever.
Oh, weapons complaints? Yeah, it's any kind of weapon by statute. So it's guns, knives. Yeah. Typically it's guns and knives because it's not really a weapon with a baseball bat until you club somebody with it. Because their first response is they're going to go have a baseball game somewhere using somebody's head for the ball, but that's not good. Yep. Yes, Pat.
Are you going to be bringing back the auctions of confiscated items?
Well, to a certain degree, yeah. I don't know if we're going to do it here. I think so. We were having a little bit of issue with the company that we were using, so it worked out better the last couple of times we did it here, so probably. Homelessness, any questions on that? I've become an expert. And I will tell you, out of clarity, I do volunteer at the warming shelter because I think that is a very good thing. I know Paul does too. So I put in my time there at night. I think it's a good thing because when I do these presentations, people several times will ask me, do you know what goes on there? Yeah, I do. I volunteer there. Do you know what goes on there? No. Well, then don't listen to all the lies. Don't listen to the rumors. Until you volunteer and see what's going on there, the Kelso Longview Ministerial Association, in conjunction actually with Love Overwhelming. Love Overwhelming has a poor reputation, but the ministers are bringing them back up. And this is a good program. The warming shelter is doing wonderful things. And if I didn't believe it, I wouldn't volunteer there. Yes?
I don't know if it's accurate or not, Chief. King County will buy tickets for the homeless to get them out of their area?
Yeah, they have a $300,000 a year budget to do that. And they just ship them out. They actually have ads in different social media sites in Seattle to come to Longview because they have the services you need and want.
We gotta change that image.
It's a very giving community. Pat again?
When you're at the warming shelter, are you there as a civilian or are you a police presence?
No, I made it very clear when I went through the training and stuff, I was going to be there as Jim Duscha, citizen of the city of Longview. Now, it's hard for most people that have been around for a while to know that I'm not a cop. It's amazing, though, that the homeless folks, because I will deal with them on the street dressed like this or in a softer uniform, they'll see me in plain clothes. They don't have a clue who I am, which is good. Now, I kind of wanted to work in the kitchen because I like to get away from the security part, but guess what they got me doing? Security. Walking around outside in the middle of the night. And I don't have a gun. It scares me to death.